Flo is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:34.298. Flo is expertly commanding that car through S1-Race.
There's not much better than sitting near here and watching the cars speed by.
Flo is working his way through S1-Race chicane. Flo is not able to keep his pace consistent, so far 0.5 seconds down through Zolder. Flo is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:34.298. Flo is looking relatively composed going through S1-Race.
The Murad Arrow is indeed a sweet-ass looking ride.
Flo is driving through S1-Race chicane.
Spectators near here can smell the smoke wafting from nearby grills.
Flo is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:34.232. Flo is down by 3.59 going through S1-Race. Flo appears focused and prepared driving through S1-Race chicane. Flo is expertly commanding that car through Zolder.
Fans sitting near Zolder get some of the best views of the action.
Flo is currently on provisional pole, with a time of 1:34.232. You've joined us on a breezy day here at Circuit Zolder, online VAC version, as we're getting ready to kick things off. Jack Knack 72 is going to be starting from 26th.
Christoph Lee Apold will be pressing Jack Knack 72 hard.
Loke Anas is starting this race on pole.
He can't let his guard down. The other drivers will be gunning for him.
Moritz Wachtmeister is starting this race on the front row.
He can't let that advantage go to waste. He will need to stay focused and keep his eyes on the prize.
On the third grid slot we have Felix 789.
Felix 789 will be expecting to bring home solid points.
Machina has qualified 4th.
Putting that Karma 382 into prime position for the race.
Flo lines up in 5th place as the engines rev and the race begins.
Another good start for the French driver.
Holding strong in 6th place is Narwhal.
Let's see what Narwhal can do.
Virgilio Bonfim is placed in 7th. Octavio 67 has qualified 8th. Starting from 9th on the grid is a good position for Achi to launch an attack. From the middle of the pack, we have FMG in 10th place on the starting grid.
Another mid-pack start for FMG.
Malero may not be starting from pole, but he's still in with a shot. Mark Johnson has got his work cut out for him starting from 12th on the grid. Jonah Hacks is lining up 13th. The lights are out and it's go time.
Avoiding contact while trying to gain position is essential. The first lap is often where we see incidents that can change the course of the race. He's a fighter, and he won't give up until he's crossed the finish line.
I think passing is going to be difficult today here at Circuit Zolder, online VAC version, so it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers get on.
I'm looking forward to this one, Hal. Maybe we'll see a return to form for Loke Anas in this outing in Belgium.
Every lap is an opportunity for Merlin to learn just a little bit more to shave a few tenths or hundredths off his times. As the tires come up to temp, their available grip is changing, and the drivers that manage this transition best are likely to make progress through the field. As the drivers get this race underway, let me give a shout out to the admin team at ASRL for making this all possible. Heroes one and all. Settling into a rhythm is going to be crucial here.
The first lap can always be a bit of a melee as everyone tries to establish themselves. It's easy for inexperienced racers to blow it in T1.
Having started in P10, FMG will be hoping for a good result in this race.
Every corner, every lap, and every race is a chance for these drivers to hone their abilities and improve their skills.
The pressure is on when the field is this tightly packed. Maintaining just enough aggression to hold off their rivals without pushing too hard will help these drivers keep it clean.
The race isn't won in the first turn, but there have been plenty that have ended there, Hal.
There's some intense battling throughout the field as everyone is feeling out the drivers around them.
The drivers will be jostling for the best position, Hal. Some of them may not make it to the second lap in one piece.
Impressive driving from Merlin, who has managed to extend his lead over Marcus Schmitz. It looks like Marcus Schmitz will have to regroup and try to make up that lost ground.
That's a really strong performance from Merlin. He's not giving Schmitz any chances to catch up.
Things are heating up as Narwhal closes in on Flo. The gap between them is down to practically nothing. These drivers are battling hard for this position, each one trying to outsmart and outmaneuver the other.
A misjudgment by either driver could result in a close encounter of the tire barrier kind, and that's one handshake they'll want to avoid.
The gap between Ewan Lloyd and Mark Johnson is widening. It's now up to 0.7 seconds. Simon of the Desert is having to make that Lardo Monastir one as wide as possible to try and keep Max Solmer behind him.
This could be where Max Solmer is gonna dive up the inside. Simon is going to need to cover the inside, and that will compromise his exit speed.
A tough moment for Simon of the Desert, who has just lost a place, now in 22nd. It's a nail-biting showdown between these three drivers. They're nose to tail, pushing their limits in every corner. Hold on to your hats, folks. Narwhal is right on the heels of Virgilio Bonfim, and we're in for a wild ride. Breaking news, folks. An impressive showing from Narwhal, who has gained positions and left Virgilio Bonfim in the dust. It looks like Mark Johnson is all over Jonah Hacks going through Lucien Bianchi-Bach, increasing the pressure and hoping for a mistake. Hold up, breaking info. What a move. Mark Johnson has moved up to 11th.
Yes, Mark Johnson is driving with real focus and precision, and it's paying off. He'll need to keep it on the road, or at the very least the rumble strips. The fastest way around is not usually in the grass. As the saying goes, too much grass will slow you down.
Wait, now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race he'd been looking at a decent result.
Sketty seems to be putting the pressure on Patrick Goldbach.
It looks like Sketty has the speed to make a move. I just hope he can do it cleanly.
Marcus Schmitz is placed 20th at the moment, and hoping to keep his distance ahead of racer 11C, who is 0.4 seconds behind. Malero wants to get into Sketty's slipstream.
For sure, Hal. That's exactly what I would be doing here, as Sketty is going to be aware of him riding his bumper.
Oh, this is getting intense. Max Solmer is just a few car lengths behind Malero. Superb driving from Max Solmer, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race. Stop the press. Great driving from Max Solmer, who has just gained a place and moved up to 17th.
You can't argue with results like that. Max Solmer is really making his mark on this race.
Gregory Myers has the pedal to the metal chasing Maju.
Rubbing's racing, but let's just hope they don't rub it too hard.
These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
Looks like Malero is really hitting those curves aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues. Breaking news, folks. A great moment for Malero, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
Impressive. Malero is really showing his skill and determination out there. Indeed, taking too much curve can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Malero is really walking that fine line.
The pressure is really on for racer 11C and 21st as Simon of the Desert is closing in. This is where experience and skill really count.
Yeah, I really can't see him holding on to this place for much longer.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Felix 789 needs to be careful not to overdo it.
This is getting exciting. Patrick Goldbach is looking for any gap that might open up the position.
Max Solmer is doing a great job of defending in the lead, and Patrick is pushing hard to close the gap. It's an exciting race and it's not over yet.
Patrick Goldbach is in 17th, and is being closely chased by Sketty, who is just 0.2 seconds behind.
Pat needs to get the lead out, Hal, otherwise his backside is gonna look like the Japanese flag come the morning.
The pursuit is on. Sketty is closing the gap on Patrick Goldbach, determined to claim P17. Moritz Wachmeister is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Moritz Wachmeister should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Felix.
The battle for P17 is heating up as Sketty tries to catch Patrick Goldbach in P17. Braking alert. Heartbreak for Sketty as they slip down the field.
Definitely, but Sketty is a skilled driver, and has what it takes to fight back and regain that position.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Marcus Schmitz is closing in on Sketty.
The gap is 0.5 seconds now. Marcus Schmitz is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Sketty.
Merlin is giving it his all, chasing down Max Solmer in P15.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Merlin needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
The race is really heating up. Sketty is hunting down Patrick Goldbach with everything he's got. Lars T wants to close that gap with Marcus Schmitz.
If you don't push the boundaries, you will never know where they are.
It's a close race between D. Burkett and Pierre Gable in 26th.
If this battle ends in tears, it could be like watching a high-speed domino effect. Let's hope they keep it clean and avoid any unplanned off-track excursions.
The pressure is on as Red Mist tries to catch up to Christophe Lee-Apel. Red Mist has just managed to set his fastest lap of the race so far with a lap time of 1 minute. Look at that, Felix 789 is hot on the tail of Loc Honnes.
The racing is getting tight between Felix and Loc Honnes as they battle for P1. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Red Mist is chasing Christophe Lee-Apel in P28. Oh, this is getting intense. Felix 789 is just a few car lengths behind Loc Honnes. Hold on a moment. Fantastic move from Felix 789, who has just gained a position.
Felix 789 is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling that RMT1N like a boss.
Oh, this is getting intense. Simon of the Desert is just behind Racer 11C. Hold the phone. Big gains for Simon of the Desert as they move up the field, leaving Racer 11C behind.
These two are putting on a masterclass in precision driving. Every turn, every acceleration, calculated to perfection.
Oh, this is getting intense. Racer 11C needs to keep Simon of the Desert in his sights.
The gap between them is now just over 0.7 seconds.
Ewan Lloyd is running 14th and trying to catch Max Solmer. This is what high-octane racing looks like. Sketty is breathing down the neck of Patrick Goldbach, not giving him any room to relax. The gap between Sketty and Patrick Goldbach is growing. It's now up to 0.2 seconds. This is a thrilling battle as Lars T edges closer to Sketty in their fight for P18.
This is where every inch counts. Lars is pushing hard to close the gap on Sketty. Absolutely, precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
Marcus Schmitz is looking to take advantage of that slipstream baying so close to Patrick Goldbach. That's going to provide the extra speed to challenge for the position. Stop the press. Talk about pressure. Patrick Goldbach is caught in the middle, feeling the heat from both Marcus and Lars.
If Marcus Schmitz gets any closer to the back of Patrick, then one of them is gonna need some lube if they want to take this further.
While John Gould is not under immediate threat from Gregory Myers, he can still benefit from staying focused. Any slip-up could lose him the position. Breaking up there. Oh dear, Lars T has dropped down to 18th.
That's got to hurt. Lars T needs to get back on the line and minimize the damage.
We're watching Lars T in 17th, and is currently being hounded by Sketty with a gap of just 0.1 seconds.
This is a tight race and Lars is doing a great job of holding him off. It will be interesting to see if Sketty can make a move.
Hold that thought. That won't be ideal for Sketty. Felix 789 is on a mission, chasing Machina, who's currently got a comfortable lead.
Felix 789 is really hustling that RMT1N. He's riding the curbs and pushing the car to its limits.
Wow, Marcus Schmitz is really pushing it. He's coming up fast to John Gould, and there's no way he can make that turn. Hold on a moment. Tough break for Marcus Schmitz, who has just lost a position.
That's got to be frustrating, but Schmitz is a skilled driver, and he's got what it takes to battle back up the field.
The pressure is on as Felix 789 works on catching up to Machina. Good news for Felix 789, the gap to Machina has decreased. It's now down to 0.4 seconds.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
This one's going to be tough. Machina is getting his elbows out, and there may not be enough time left for Felix 789 to make a move. Hold that thought. Oh dear, Christophe Lee-Apel has had an incident.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 7 kph out there right now. It's not over yet. Felix is right on Machina's tail, and if he can find just a little bit of extra speed, he might be able to make a move.
Things don't seem to be going Gregory Myers' way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be into the shout for gaining a place here. Wait, looks like that's a mistake from Narwhal. This could be costly. Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. The drivers are getting faster as they settle into their cars and get used to the conditions, with Red Mist just putting in his best lap so far with a 1 minute.
Things are heating up now, Hal, and it'll be interesting to see if he can improve further on that time.
Things are heating up as Sketty tries to close the gap to Simon of the Desert. It looks like Sketty is making a move. The gap to Simon of the Desert is now down to 0.6 seconds. Red Mist is on a mission, chasing Pierre Gable, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. John Gould wants to find a way round Marcus Schmitz.
I might have said this before, but dog, bone, you know the rest.
Oh my, Red Mist is hot on the tail of Pierre Gable as they drive through Sterrenwalk-Bach. Braking alert. A great pass for Red Mist, swapping places with Pierre Gable to move up the field.
Go, 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 that's what we want to see. This battle between Red Mist and Pierre Gable is so intense, you could cut the tension with a knife, or should I say, with a front wing.
Every move counts now as FMG works to reel in Atchie and overtake for P7.
The gap between them is just over 0.5 seconds. Can FMG close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
The pursuit is on. Sketty is closing the gap on Simon of the Desert, determined to claim P19. Looks like Marcus Schmitz is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
The gap between Marcus Schmitz and Maju is getting smaller. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. With just 0.5 seconds between them, Felix 789 will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
Sketty is giving it his all, chasing down Simon of the Desert in P19. Felix 789 is looking for a way round Moritz Walkmeister.
And if you're enjoying the racing, please remember to like and subscribe.
Breaking development. I don't think that's the fastest way around Circuit Zolder, online back version.
Oops, Jack Knack 72 is going to be wishing that hadn't happened.
Moritz Walkmeister could be looking for a way up the inside of Felix 789.
There is no room for error in this battle.
The battle for P3 is heating up as Machina tries to catch Moritz Walkmeister in P3.
The mental game is just as important here. Machina must keep his cool while putting pressure on Moritz Walkmeister.
Hold on a moment. A brilliant maneuver from Machina, who has just moved up the field. Maju is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. Wait. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line. Look at that, Atchie is hot on the tail of Machina. Hold on a moment. What a move. Atchie has moved up to 6th.
Absolutely. Atchie is really putting on a clinic out there, and he's making it look easy. I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
Malero is running 11th, and trying to catch Octavio 67. The pressure is on as Sketty tries to catch up to Simon of the Desert.
It's a game of strategy now as Sketty hunts down Simon. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
Hold up, breaking info. That won't be ideal for Machina.
Machina is not going to be happy about that.
We got a close battle as Sketty closes in on Simon of the Desert.
At this rate, Sketty and Simon are so close, they could share a cup of tea and a biscuit.
Sketty could be on a charge here 80. He's just put in a quicker lap than Simon of the Desert. Hold the phone. Superb driving from Sketty, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race.
Amazing stuff. Focus and precision, what it's all about. We will have to see if Simon has got any answers for that.
Well, it doesn't look like Merlin is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Jaeger Strensky. The race is really heating up. Sketty is hunting down Simon of the Desert with everything he's got.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Sketty needs to stay patient and wait for Simon to make a mistake.
Oh, this is getting intense. Merlin is just a few car lengths behind Jaeger Strensky.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Merlin needs to be careful not to overdo it.
Rising to the occasion and claiming victory would help to cement Racer 11C's legendary status.
As an experienced driver, I can tell you that Racer 11C must be laser focused on Maju's every move, looking for the slightest weakness to exploit.
Things are heating up as John Gould tries to close the gap to Racer 11C.
This is not going to be an easy pass to make.
Every move counts now as Malero works to reel in Jonah Hacks and overtake for P7.
Malero is looking to close the 0.4 second gap and make a pass.
Sketty is looking for an opportunity to get around Simon of the Desert.
He'll need to keep it on the road, or at the very least the rumble strips. The fastest way around is not usually in the grass. As the saying goes, too much grass will slow you down.
Stop the press. Great driving from Sketty, who has just gained a place and moved up to 18th. This is a thrilling battle as John Gould edges closer to Racer 11C in their fight for P23. Wait, a great moment for John Gould, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings. The pursuit is on. Merlin is working on that gap to Jaeger Strensky, determined to claim P13. Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. John Gould is really walking that fine line.
It's all eyes on this battle as Jonah Hacks in 8th tries to hold off the challenge of Octavio 67.
It's an intense battle between two skilled drivers, and Hacks in 8th is doing everything he can to keep Octavio in the rear-view mirror. The slightest mistake could cost him the position.
Excellent work from Jonah Hacks, who has managed to increase his lead over Octavio 67.
That's exactly what Jonah needed to do.
This is going to be a nail-biter. Sketty is defending for his life, but Simon of the Desert is right there doing everything he can to force a mistake. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
The gap between Felix 789 and Marcus Schmitz is razor thin as they vie for 19th in this nail-biting contest. Wait, a brilliant maneuver from Felix 789, who has just moved up the field.
Yes, Felix is driving with real focus and precision, and it's paying off.
John Gould is looking for a way to close that gap to Racer 11C. Flo is giving it his all chasing down Narwhal in P3. It looks like we might get a battle between Flo and Narwhal.
He'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
The battle for P5 is heating up as FMG tries to catch Achi in P5.
The gap is 0.5 seconds now. FMG is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Achi.
Hold up, breaking info. Oh dear, John Gould has had an incident.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race he'd been looking at a decent result.
Flo is trying his best to catch Narwhal.
This is where every inch counts. Flo is pushing hard to close the gap on Narwhal.
Looks like Felix 789 is really hitting those curves aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer.
Hold the phone. Fantastic move from Felix 789, who has just gained a position.
You can't argue with results like that. Felix 789 is really making his mark on this race. Felix 789 needs to focus to have a chance at getting past Sketty.
That's not a small gap, but Sketty has what it takes to challenge for the position.
Absolutely. Sketty in 18th will need to be patient and work carefully to reduce that gap without overdriving it. as he can't afford to take unnecessary risks and that might lead to an off or damaging their car.
It's certainly not going to plan for Sketty right now, who is struggling to keep up with Felix 789. This is what racing is all about. Two fierce competitors pushing each other to the limit.
If FMG pushes too hard, he might end up taking the scenic route, and nobody's got time for sightseeing during a race.
FMG appears to be losing ground on Achi. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into Villeneuve chicane to get a good exit and gain some ground. This is where the race gets really interesting. Jonah Hacks is closing in on Malero.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Hacks should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Malero.
It's not going to plan for Jonah Hacks, who is trailing behind Malero and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now. Oh, this is getting intense. FMG needs to keep Achi in his sights. It's game on now. FMG has closed the gap to Achi. It's now down to 0.4 seconds.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. A driver that stays calm and focused is more likely to come out on top.
Look at that. Jonah Hacks is hot on the tail of Malero. The action is non-stop as FMG shadows Achi through every twist and turn, determined to claim fifth. Braking development. I don't think that's the fastest way around Circuit Zolder, online VAC version.
Circuit Zolder, online VAC version is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
Red Mist is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. Braking development. Superb driving from Red Mist, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race. The pressure is on as Achi tries to catch up to FMG.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Achi needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
The pursuit is on. Merlin is closing the gap on Jaeger Strensky, determined to claim P13. The race is really heating up. Marcus Schmitz is hunting down Simon of the Desert with everything he's got. It's not looking good for Marcus Schmitz, who is still behind Simon of the Desert and the gap is increasing.
Schmitz really needs to push in Kanalbach to gain some ground before Simon drives off into the sunset.
Merlin is giving it his all chasing down Jaeger Strensky in P13. Hold the phone. Looks like that's a mistake from Max Solmer. This could be costly.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 7 kph out there right now. The gap between them is just over 0.7 seconds, which can feel like miles if you're trailing and not catching up.
It looks like Max Solmer has been called into the pits. Hold your breath, folks. These drivers are showing exceptional car control, threading the needle through tight corners. It's a battle for supremacy.
I couldn't agree more, Hal. The proximity of these cars is incredible. The precision and trust these drivers have in each other is truly remarkable.
The gap between Merlin and Jaeger Strensky is widening. It's now up to 0.7 seconds.
This is where the mental toughness of Merlin comes into play. He'll need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way.
The crowd is on its feet as Simon of the Desert chases down Marcus Schmitz through Jackie X chicane. Hold the phone. What a move. Simon of the Desert has moved up to 19th.
This is what separates the good from the great, the ability to stay focused and perform under pressure.
Every move counts now as Merlin works to reel in Jaeger Strensky and overtake for P12. Sketty is running 17th and trying to catch Patrick Goldbach.
The gap between them is just over 0.5 seconds. Can Sketty close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Things are heating up as Red Mist tries to close the gap to John Gould. Red Mist is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with John Gould at the moment.
It's not over yet, but Red Mist needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to John Gould.
This is a thrilling battle as Simon of the Desert edges closer to Marcus Schmitz in their fight for P18. The adrenaline is pumping as Sketty gets within striking distance of Patrick Goldbach in their race for 16th.
And the drivers know it too, Hal. He's giving it everything he's got, and you can see him pushing the limits of the car's capabilities.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Red Mist is chasing John Gould in P24.
Red Mist is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling that RMT 121 like a boss.
Hold that thought. It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Red Mist gaining places and John Gould losing them. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure John Gould is going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. He's not giving up without a fight. Braking development. That won't be ideal for Flo. Flo has pulled into the pits. Merlin is giving it his all, chasing down Jaeger Strensky in P12. A solid performance from Jonah Hacks, who is holding down 8th. Hold that thought. Disappointing for Jonah Hacks, falling down the order to 21st.
Yes, but there's still plenty of race left. Hacks needs to stay calm and focused, and make his move when the time is right.
Jonah Hacks has decided to pit. Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. Braking development. A great moment for Merlin, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
With just 0.5 seconds between them, Merlin will need to close the gap to have hopes of a pass.
Flo is in the pits. John Gould is on a mission, chasing Red Mist, who's currently got a comfortable lead. Looks like Felix 789 is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer.
Hold that thought. A setback for Felix 789, who has just been passed. Wow, Max Solmer is really pushing hard to catch up to Maju.
It's going to be a close one. Max Solmer will have to push hard to create an opportunity.
Braking alert. It looks like Mark Johnson has been called into the pits. Maju seems to be putting the pressure on Max Solmer.
And Maju is poised to capitalize on any mistake. It's just a matter of who cracks first.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Sketty is closing in on Patrick Goldbach.
This is where every inch counts. Sketty is pushing hard to close the gap on Goldie. Absolutely. Precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
Look at that, Malero is hot on the tail of Atchi.
I would not be surprised to see him get this pass completed soon.
It looks like Sketty is all over Patrick Goldbach going through Villeneuve chicane, increasing the pressure and hoping for a mistake. Hold the phone. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
If Sketty gets too close, he might end up taking the paint off.
The gap between Felix 789 and Ewan Lloyd is not insurmountable, but it's going to take a mistake from Felix 789 to bring Ewan Lloyd into play. Hold that thought. Lars T is pitting. These drivers are walking a razor's edge between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely. It's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving.
Max Solmer is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. It seems like Max Solmer is struggling and not able to maintain his pace.
I heard a rumor that Max Solmer is feeling under the weather, likely from too much partying and staying up late.
Hold on a second. Great driving from Sketty, who has just gained a place and moved up to 12th.
That's what we like to see. Sketty is really showing his class today.
Sketty is on a mission, chasing Patrick Goldbach, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. Jaeger Strensky is staying focused while chasing Max Solmer in P18.
It's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
The crowd is on their feet, roaring with excitement. It's an all-out war between these three drivers. I can only hope the netcode keeps up with their fearlessness. Stop the press. I don't think that's the fastest way around Circuit Zolder, online back version.
Oops, Goldie is going to be wishing that hadn't happened.
Looks like Gregory Myers is coming in hot. He's approaching that turn way too fast. Gregory Myers has decided to pit. Things are getting spicy now, as Octavio 67 and Loc Honnes look to battle it out for 4th place.
Absolutely. Octavio is really making that car as wide as possible, not giving Loc Honnes an inch of space. It's going to take something special for Loc Honnes to get past him.
The battle for P22 is heating up as D. Burkett tries to catch Maju in P22. Braking development. Fantastic move from D. Burkett, who has just gained a position. You know, Ada, as a former racing driver yourself, can you give us some insights into what goes through a driver's mind during these quieter moments in a race? Braking update. Marcus Schmitz has pulled into the pits.
Sure, how, during these moments, drivers often take the opportunity to assess their race strategy, monitor their car's performance, and plan their next move. It's all about staying focused and finding the right time to strike.
Braking update. Looks like that's a mistake from Octavio 67. This could be costly.
Octavio is not going to be happy about that.
It looks like Octavio 67 has been called into the pits. The pursuit is on. John Gould is working on that gap to Red Mist, determined to claim P25. Marcus Schmitz wants to get into Lars' slipstream. Hold on a moment. A tough moment for Marcus Schmitz, who has just lost a place, now in 17th.
For sure, Hal. That's exactly what I would be doing here, as Lars is going to be aware of him riding his bumper.
A brilliant maneuver from Marcus Schmitz, who has just moved up the field. It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for you and Lloyd, as there is a big gap ahead.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
It's certainly not going to plan for you and Lloyd right now, who is struggling to keep up with Jaeger Strensky. Octavio 67 is pitting. Machina is looking for a way to close that gap to Christoph Lee Apel.
Absolutely. Precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
Braking development. That won't be ideal for Moritz Wachtmeister. Moritz Wachtmeister is in the pits. Patrick Goldbach is running 18th and trying to keep up with Marcus Schmitz.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Pat is really walking that fine line.
Superb driving from Patrick Goldbach, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race.
Absolutely. Goldbach is really putting on a clinic out there, and he's making it look easy.
The pressure is on as Marcus Schmitz works on catching up to Patrick Goldbach. Lars T is running 15th and trying to catch Ewan Lloyd.
The gap between them is now just over 0.4 seconds.
Moritz Wachtmeister is placed 3rd at the moment. Moritz Wachtmeister has pulled into the pits. Ewan Lloyd has a battle on his hands now coming through Lucien Bianchi-Bocht with Lars T hot on his tail.
Yeah, Lars is likely going to be sniffing up the inside of Ewan Lloyd as they come into Lucien Bianchi-Bocht.
Things are heating up as Lars T tries to close the gap to Ewan Lloyd. Lars T is not able to keep his pace consistent, and is currently 1.86 seconds down.
This may not be a track that Lars T is familiar with, which can be a pleasant challenge or an annoyance at being off pace.
This is a thrilling battle as Flo edges closer to Moritz Wachtmeister in their fight for P4. What a move. Flo has moved up to 4th. It's neck and neck, the closest battle we've seen in a while.
It looks like Moritz Wachtmeister wants to take a cheeky peek up the inside.
The gap between Moritz Wachtmeister and Flo is growing. It's now up to 0.9 seconds.
This is a tough situation for Moritz Wachtmeister. He'll need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
Gregory Myers has a mountain to climb at the moment to close that gap with Marcus Schmitz. I expect his only hope at this point is that Marcus makes an error. Braking update. It's looking good for Gregory Myers, who has gained a place after passing Marcus Schmitz.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Myers is going to have to get more serious with practice to not get outclassed on the circuit.
Breaking update. A great moment for Gregory Myers, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
Amazing stuff. Focus and precision, what it's all about.
Heartbreak for Gregory Myers as they slip down the field.
Yes, but he can't give up. There's still plenty of time left in this race, and Greg needs to stay focused and keep pushing.
The battle for P25 is heating up as Red Mist tries to catch John Gould in P25.
He's got his work cut out for him, that's for sure.
Hold on a second. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line. The pursuit is on. Flo is closing the gap on Moritz Wachtmeister, determined to claim P4.
We'll have to wait to see if Flo can use the draft to his advantage, or if the lack of downforce will hinder his progress.
It seems like Flo is struggling and not able to maintain his pace. The gap between John Gould and Red Mist is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from John Gould to even allow Red Mist to get a look in. It looks like John Gould is pulling away from Red Mist. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Ears to Links.
He needs to pick up the pace for sure, but that's not always a real possibility.
We're starting to see who really has the pace now in this race as Gregory Myers is starting to climb all over the back of Marcus Schmitz. Any closer and he may need to pop the boot. A commanding performance from Marcus Schmitz, who has increased his lead over Gregory Myers, putting him firmly in his rear-view mirrors.
Yes, it's clear that Schmitz is in control out there. He's making it very difficult for Greg to catch up.
Oh, this is getting intense. Sketty needs to keep Simon of the Desert in his sights.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Sketty needs to be careful not to overdo it.
It's not going to plan for Sketty, who is trailing behind Simon of the Desert and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now. Hold up, breaking info. Oh dear, Malero has had an incident. This is where the race gets really interesting. Sketty is closing in on Simon of the Desert. Octavio 67 is giving it his all, chasing down Malero in P8. Good news for Octavio 67, the gap to Malero has decreased. It's now down to 0.2 seconds. Sketty wants to find a way round Simon of the Desert.
To achieve anything in this game, you must be prepared to dabble at the boundary of disaster.
It would seem Pierre Gable is starting to get a bit frustrated here at being held up by Machina.
Never break someone's heart, they only have one. Break their bones instead, they have 206 of them.
Oh, this is getting intense. Sketty is just a few car lengths behind Simon of the Desert. Hold the phone. Great driving from Sketty, who has just gained a place and moved up to 17th.
Yes, Sketty is driving with real focus and precision, and it's paying off.
Tough break for Sketty, who has just lost a position.
Sucks to be them, how?
Well, it doesn't look like FMG is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Sketty.
It's not over until the checkered flag drops, and it's important to maintain concentration until you've made it to the finish line.
Looks like Sketty is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. Sketty is looking to close the 0.5 second gap and make a pass.
The race is really heating up. FMG is hunting down Sketty with everything he's got. Braking alert. A brilliant maneuver from FMG, who has just moved up the field.
Impressive, FMG is really showing his skill and determination out there. It's a game of strategy now as FMG hunts down Sketty. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. Sketty is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Simon of the Desert to 0.1 seconds. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Sketty is chasing Simon of the Desert in P18.
The racing is getting tight between Sketty and Simon as they battle for P18. No doubt, both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
Sketty is not able to keep his pace consistent, and is currently 0.31 seconds down.
Sketty needs to regroup and refocus and knock it up a notch.
Marcus Schmitz is trying his best to catch D. Burkett. An impressive showing from Marcus Schmitz, who has gained positions and left D. Burkett in the dust. The pursuit is on. D. Burkett is working on that gap to Marcus Schmitz, determined to claim P22.
I would not be surprised to see him challenge for the position.
It seems like Sketty is getting in range of Simon of the Desert.
Rubbing's racing, but let's just hope they don't rub it too hard.
The gap between Sketty and Simon of the Desert is widening. It's now up to 0.7 seconds.
This is a frustrating situation for Sketty, but he can't give up just yet. He'll need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Simon.
Look at that, D. Burkett is hot on the tail of Racer 11C. Braking development. Fantastic move from D. Burkett, who has just gained a position.
You can see that car bouncing around as it rides the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
Hold up, braking info. Looks like that's a mistake from Marcus Schmitz. This could be costly. The track conditions are looking good here today. The drivers will be able to push the cars to the limit, and it's going to make for some exciting racing. Sketty is looking for a way to close that gap to Simon of the Desert. Hold up, braking info. That won't be ideal for Merlin.
Circuit Zolder. Online VAC version is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
Things are going according to plan for Mark Johnson, who is currently 9th. Impressive stuff from Mark Johnson, who has managed to pull away from Max Solmer, leaving him in choking in his exhaust fumes. The pressure is on as Sketty tries to catch up to Simon of the Desert.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Sketty is really walking that fine line.
Sketty has just put in a faster lap than Simon of the Desert, so that's going to give him something to worry about. Braking development. Narwhal has decided to pit.
As long as Sketty can maintain that consistency and pace, it will be interesting to see.
Every move counts now as Sketty works to reel in Simon of the Desert and overtake for P17.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Sketty needs to stay patient and wait for Simon to make a mistake.
The battle for P23 is heating up as Gregory Myers tries to catch Racer 11C and P23. Gregory Myers is trying his best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Racer 11C at the moment.
Greg needs to get it together to make a dent in that gap.
Sketty is running 18th and trying to catch Simon of the Desert.
The gap between them is just over 0.4 seconds, which can feel like miles if you're trailing and not catching up.
Hold the phone. Superb driving from Marcus Schmitz, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race.
That's what we like to see. Schmitz is really showing his class today.
Things are heating up as Marcus Schmitz tries to close the gap to D. Burkett.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Schmitz needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
This is a thrilling battle as Sketty edges closer to Simon of the Desert in their fight for P17.
We'll have to wait to see if Sketty can get into drafting range.
The gap between Sketty and Simon of the Desert is getting smaller. Hold on a second. A great moment for Sketty, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings. I love being here at Circuit Zolder. Online VAC version. What an awesome place to be witnessing these titans of the track battle it out.
Indeed, Hal, what a magnificent sight and sound. I love listening to the roar of these engines. Let's just listen for a moment.
Simon of the Desert is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. It's not looking good for Simon of the Desert, who is still behind Sketty and the gap is increasing. Oh, this is getting intense. FMG is just a few car lengths behind Patrick Goldbach.
FMG is really pushing the limits. He's riding the curbs and hustling the PURIANO3H1 like a boss.
Hold on a moment. Great driving from FMG, who has just gained a place and moved up to 15th. Looks like Patrick Goldbach is really hitting those curbs aggressively, which can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. The gap between them is just over 0.5 seconds. Can Pat close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
It's certainly not going to plan for Patrick Goldbach right now, who is struggling to keep up with FMG. I think we just got time for a quick shout out to our human creators, Dave, Andy, John and Nigel, who have put so much effort into making this possible.
Yes, it's been a real thrill ride, and I for one look forward to future advancements in AI technology.
Apparently we are going to be announcing crashes and incidents soon. Let's hope they get the logic right. It's all about consistency for Maju, who is currently 19th.
That's right, Maju can't afford to make any mistakes or let up. Every point counts in this championship.
Some great driving from Maju, who has increased his lead over Merlin and is starting to put some distance between them. Things don't seem to be going Racer 11C's way in this race, as that's a big gap he'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here.
Racer 11C certainly isn't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from D. Burkett.
It looks like D. Burkett is pulling away from Racer 11C. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Jackie X chicane.
Racer 11C needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way. If he can close the gap down, he may be able to bring the fight to D. Burkett.
The race is really heating up. Machina is hunting down Red Mist with everything he's got. The gap between Machina and Red Mist is growing. It's now up to 0.8 seconds.
Machina really needs to push in Boulderbergbach to gain some ground before Red Mist drives off into the sunset.
Braking update. Big gains for Machina as they move up the field, leaving Red Mist behind. The pursuit is on. Red Mist is closing the gap on Machina, determined to claim P26.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Red Mist should use slipstreaming to his advantage and close the gap to Machina.
It's not going to plan for Red Mist, who is trailing behind Machina and the gap is widening. He may not have an answer for this right now.
This is not ideal for Red Mist, but there's still time to turn this around. He'll need to focus and not let that gap get any bigger.
Braking update. I don't think that's the fastest way around Circuit Zolder, online VAC version. You know, Ada, during a long race like this, how easy is it for a driver to experience a lapse in concentration?
It can be quite easy, how? With so many factors to consider and the intense focus required, even the most experienced drivers can have a momentary lapse. That's why mental training and staying in the zone are so important.
A strong showing from Locanes, who is currently first. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. D. Burkett is chasing Racer 11C and P22. D. Burkett appears to be losing ground on Racer 11C. He'll need to pick up the pace a bit heading into Kanalbach to get a good exit and gain some ground.
It's not over yet, but D. Burkett needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to Racer 11C.
And we're back, where the drivers are showing us some incredible skills.
Indeed, how? It's always exciting to see these skilled drivers operating such fantastic machines on amazing tracks.
Things are heating up as Malero tries to close the gap to Lars T. It looks like Malero is making a move. The gap to Lars T is now down to 0.6 seconds.
Exactly what Malero needed. He can't afford to lose any more ground to Lars.
Braking alert. A brilliant maneuver from Malero, who has just moved up the field. Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled from being pushed for every last bit of speed. The gap between Lars T and Malero is widening. It's now up to 0.4 seconds.
This is where the mental toughness of Lars comes into play. He'll need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when things aren't going his way.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Racer 11C is closing in on Markus Schmitz. Hold the phone. And Racer 11C has just won the place from Markus Schmitz.
The mental game is just as important here. Racer 11C must keep his cool while putting pressure on Schmitz.
Hold the phone. Oh dear, Racer 11C has dropped down to 22nd.
Definitely, but Racer 11C is a skilled driver, and has what it takes to fight back and regain that position.
Octavio 67 is giving it his all chasing down Jonah Hacks in P6. Look at that, Ewan Lloyd is hot on the tail of Max Solman. It's certainly not going to plan for Ewan Lloyd right now, who is struggling to keep up with Max Solman. During your racing career, Ada, how did you determine when it was the right time to pit for fresh tires due to tire degradation?
It was a combination of factors, how, monitoring lap times, communicating with the team about tire wear, and assessing the car's handling were all crucial in deciding when to make a pit stop for fresh tires.
Ewan Lloyd is on a mission, chasing Max Solmer, who's currently got a comfortable lead.
Ewan Lloyd is really hustling that Murad screen. He's riding the curves and pushing the car to its limits.
Every move counts now as Octavio 67 works to reel in Jonah Hacks and overtake for P6. The pressure is on as Ewan Lloyd tries to catch up to Max Solman. It looks like Max Solmer is pulling away from Ewan Lloyd. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Thierry Boutsen chicane. Octavio 67 is on a mission, chasing Jonah Hacks, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. Braking alert. Fantastic move from Octavio 67, who has just gained a position.
Octavio needs to focus to have a chance at getting past Jonah Hacks.
Braking alert. A great pass for Jonah Hacks, swapping places with Octavio 67 to move up the field.
Yes, but Jonah Hacks can't rest on his laurels, but needs to keep pushing to consolidate his position.
Things are heating up as Jonah Hacks tries to close the gap to Octavio 67. A solid performance from Octavio 67, who is holding down 7th.
Yes, but Octavio has to keep his focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
Oh, this is getting intense. Narwhal is just a few car lengths behind Mark Johnson. Looking at the lap times, Narwhal is not currently on pace with Mark Johnson. Maybe he'll get a chance to see where to make up some time. In your experience, Ada, what was the most important aspect of managing tire degradation during a race? Stop the press. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing rule.
The most important aspect, how, was maintaining a good balance between pushing hard and conserving tires. Finding the sweet spot between aggression and tire preservation was key to optimizing race pace and strategy.
I'm sure Narwhal in 8th is starting to notice Mark Johnson is right on his tail, and is still closing the gap.
Absolutely. Narwhal in 8th is doing a fantastic job of maintaining his lead, but he can't afford to make a single mistake. Mark Johnson is looking for any opportunity to make a move. This could be a battle to the finish line.
It may seem like Narwhal is far behind, but Mark Johnson can't afford to let his guard down. One mistake could give Narwhal an opening to catch up.
Surely he's got enough in the tank to pull away. Gonna be interesting to watch this battle unfold.
The battle for P8 is heating up as Narwhal tries to catch Mark Johnson in P8. This is where the race gets really interesting. D. Burkett is closing in on John Gould.
The gap between them is now just over 0.6 seconds.
The gap between D. Burkett and John Gould is growing. It's now up to 1.5 seconds.
This is a frustrating situation for D. Burkett, but he can't give up just yet. He'll need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from John Gould.
We often hear drivers complaining about tire graining. Ada, can you explain what that means and how it affects car handling? Hold up, breaking info. Oh dear, Mark Johnson has had an incident.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race, he'd been looking at a decent result. Graining occurs when small rubber particles roll up on the tire's surface, reducing grip and negatively affecting handling. It usually happens when the tires are not in their optimal temperature window or when a driver is pushing too hard on a cold or overworked tire.
It's like Locanes has saved all his energy for this final stretch.
That's an impressive burst of speed. It's all but said and done now.
The leader has just finished the race. A fantastic result for Locanes. Narwhal, Patrick Goldbach, and Marcus Schmitz end in 8th, 16th, and 21st. Mark Johnson, Machina, and Christoph Lee Apel brings home 9th, 27th, and 29th. Finishing 17th is Sketty. A nail-biting finish, but Felix 789 claims second place. Racer 11C and Gregory Myers in 22nd and 23rd. 18th and 30th is Simon of the Desert and Jack Knack 72. What a race from Moritz Wachtmeister. He kept his cool and secured a well-earned third place on the podium. Coming in 19th, 24th, 25th, and 28th we have Maju, John Gould, D. Burkett, and Pierre Gable. Flo and Jaeger Strensky claim 4th and 10th, with Merlin in 20th. Followed by Max Solmer in 11th. In 12th and 13th, it's Lars T. and Ewan Lloyd. Atchie brings home 5th. FMG take 14th. 6th sees Jonah Hacks. Taking 26th is Red Mist. Finishing 15th is Malera. Octavio 67 end in 7th.